young boy lives in a house next to a tree that overlooks the road. A pret, which seems to be a mischievous ghost, lives in the tree and pulls pranks on people walking or driving their carts or cars underneath. One day, the government cuts down the tree to widen the road, and so the pret, deprived of its tree, moves into the house and starts playing pranks on the family. Things get so bad that they are determined to move away, so they pack everything up into their car, and then the story starts. It was grandmother who decided that we must move to another house, and it was all because of a pret, a mischievous ghost who had been making life intolerable for everyone. In India, prets usually live in peepal trees, and that's where our pret first had his abode, in the branches of an old peepal which had grown through the compound wall and had spread into the garden on our side and over the road on the other side. For many years, the pret had lived there quite happily, without bothering anyone in the house. I suppose the traffic on the road had kept him fully occupied. Sometimes, when a Tonga was passing, he would frighten the pony, and, as a result, the little pony cart would go reeling off the road. Occasionally, he would get into the engine of a car or bus, which would soon afterwards have a breakdown. And he liked to knock the solotopus off the heads of sahibs, who would curse and wonder how a breeze had sprung up so suddenly, only to die down again just as quickly. Although the pret could make himself felt and sometimes heard, he was invisible to the human eye. At night, people avoided walking beneath the peepal tree. It was said that if you yawned beneath the tree, the pret would jump down your throat and ruin your digestion. Grandmother's tailor, Jaspel, who never had anything ready on time, blamed the pret for all his troubles. Once, when yawning, Jaspal had forgotten to snap his fingers in front of his mouth, always mandatory when yawning beneath peepal trees, and the pret had got in without any difficulty. Since then, Jaspel had always been suffering from tummy upsets, but it had left our family alone until one day the peepal tree had been cut down. It was nobody's fault except, of course, that grandfather had given the Public Works Department permission to cut the tree which had been standing on our land. They wanted to widen the road, and the tree and a bit of wall were in the way, so both had to go. In any case, not even a ghost can prevail against the PWD. But hardly a day had passed when we discovered that the pret, deprived of his tree, had decided to take up residence in the bungalow. And since a good pret must be bad in order to justify his existence, he was soon up to all sorts of mischief in the house. He began by hiding grandmother's spectacles whenever she took them off. "I'm sure I put them down on the dressing table," she grumbled. A little later, they were found balanced precariously on the snout of a wild boar, whose stuffed and mounted head adorned the veranda wall. Being the only boy in the house, I was at first blamed for this prank, but a day or two later, when the spectacles disappeared again only to be discovered dangling from the wires of the parrot's cage, it was agreed that some other agency was at work. Grandfather was the next to be troubled. He went into the garden one morning to find all his prized sweet peas snipped off and lying on the ground. Uncle Ken was the next to suffer. He was a heavy sleeper, and once he'd gone to bed, he hated being woken up. So when he came to the breakfast table looking bleary-eyed and miserable, we asked him if he wasn't feeling all right. "I couldn't sleep a wink last night," he complained. "Every time I was about to fall asleep, the bedclothes would be pulled off the bed. I had to get up at least a dozen times to pick them off the floor." He stared balefully at me. "Where were you sleeping last night, young man?" I had an alibi. "In grandfather's room," I said. "That's right," said grandfather. "And I'm a light sleeper. I'd have woken up if he'd been sleepwalking. It's that ghost from the peepal tree, said Grandmother. It has moved into the house, first my spectacles, then the sweet peas, and now Ken's bedclothes. What will it be up to next? I wonder. We did not have to wonder for long. There followed a series of disasters. Vases fell off tables. Pictures came down the walls. Parrot feathers turned up in the teapot while the parrot himself let out indignant squawks in the middle of the night. Uncle Ken found a crow's nest in his bed, and on tossing it out of the window was attacked by 2 crows. When Aunt Minnie came to stay, things got worse. The Pretts seemed to take an immediate dislike to Aunt Minnie. She was a nervous, easily excitable person, just the right sort of prey for a spiteful ghost. Somehow her toothpaste got switched with a tube of Grandfather's shaving cream, and when she appeared in the sitting room, foaming at the mouth, we ran for our lives. Uncle Ken was shouting that she'd got rabies. 2 days later, Aunt Minnie complained that she had been hit on the nose by a grapefruit, which had of its own accord taken a leap from the pantry shelf and hurtled across the room straight at her. A bruised and swollen nose testified to the attack. Aunt Minnie swore that life had been more peaceful in Upper Burma. We'll have to leave this house, declared Grandmother. If we stay here much longer, both Ken and Minnie will have nervous breakdowns. I thought Aunt Minnie broke down long ago, I said. None of your cheek, snapped Aunt Minnie. Anyway, I agree about changing the house, I said breezily. I can't even do my homework. The ink bottle is always empty. There was ink in the soup last night. That came from Grandfather. And so, a few days and several disasters later, we began moving to a new house. 2 bullock carts laden with furniture and heavy luggage were sent ahead. The roof of the old car was piled high with bags and kitchen utensils. Everyone squeezed into the car, and Grandfather took the driver's seat. We were barely out of the gate when we heard a peculiar sound, as if someone was chuckling and talking to himself on the roof of the car. Is the parrot out there on the luggage rack? The query came from Grandfather. No, he's in the cage on one of the bullock carts, said Grandmother. Grandfather stopped the car, got out, and took a look at the roof. Nothing up there, he said, getting in again and starting the engine. I'm sure I heard the parrot talking. Grandfather had driven some way up the road when the chuckling started again, followed by a squeaky little voice. We all heard it. It was the Pret talking to itself. Let's go, let's go, it squeaked gleefully. A new house, I can't wait to see it. What fun we're going to have. An abandoned building, a forgotten curse, a night they will never escape. For years, the town whispered about the witches dwelling in eerie ruin, where shadows moved on their own and whispers filled the silence. No one who entered ever spoke of what they saw. But when 3 friends step inside, curiosity turns to horror. In a small town, rumors spread about an abandoned building. In the heart of darkness, an abandoned building looms, its shattered windows whispering tales of forgotten despair. The air is heavy with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant howl of a forlorn wind. Ivy-clad walls cradle the secrets of a bygone era, while creaking floorboards echo the footsteps of an unseen presence. Within the shadows, a spectral figure materializes, a witch, her tattered cloak trailing behind her ethereal form. Glowing eyes pierce the darkness, casting an otherworldly glow that reveals the twisted remnants of forgotten spells etched on decaying walls. The air carries a scent of ancient herbs and bitter potions, as if the very essence of the witch's malevolence permeates the atmosphere said to be haunted by a malevolent witch. Intrigued, three adventurous friends, Ramesh, Sunil, and Sumit, decided to explore the eerie structure one gloomy evening. As they entered the decaying building, the air thickened with an unsettling silence. The creaking floorboards echoed through the desolate halls as they ventured deeper into the darkness. Shadows danced on the walls, playing tricks on their nerves. The flickering light of a long extinguished candle reveals unsettling symbols and pentagrams etched into the cold stone floors. Whispers of incantations linger, resonating with a macabre energy that sends shivers down your spine. The building, a vessel of the witch's cursed legacy, stands frozen in time, a sinister testament to the horrors that unfolded within its forsaken walls. Soon, whispers filled the air, sending shivers down their spines. Ignoring the growing unease, the friends pressed on, their curiosity overshadowing the warnings they'd heard. In a dimly lit room, an old book lay open, detailing the sinister history of the witch who was said to have cursed the building. As midnight approached, the atmosphere became increasingly oppressive. Unseen forces seemed to manipulate the very air around them. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the corridors, and the friends felt an otherworldly presence in the room. Panicking, they attempted to flee, but the exit mysteriously vanished. Terrified, the friends were separated in the labyrinthine passages. Unearthly apparitions and ghastly visions tormented them. Sumit, disoriented and terrified, stumbled into a concealed passage within the haunted building, paralyzed by fear. As he cautiously navigated the eerie corridors, fear gripped him like icy fingers. Paralyzed by terror, Sumit felt an otherworldly force pulling him into the abyss of darkness. The air grew colder as he descended into an unknown realm, surrounded by the haunting whispers of the ghostly figures. In the darkness, as he navigated through winding corridors and mysterious chambers, the spectral echoes of the ghostly figures persisted, creating an eerie atmosphere that intensified his fear. Unknown to Sumit, the walls themselves seemed to twist and shift, leading him deeper into the haunted labyrinth. Time lost its meaning as he traversed this spectral maze, desperately seeking an exit. The house held secrets that beckoned him further into its enigmatic depths, leaving Sumit suspended between the real and the otherworldly, trapped within the haunted embrace of the walls. Sunil, in another part of the building, separated from his friends in the haunted building, Sunil's anxiety reached unbearable levels. Each step he took was accompanied by a palpable sense of dread, his imagination running wild with the eerie sounds that surrounded him. As he stumbled upon the concealed pit, a wave of terror washed over him. Driven by desperation, Sunil descended into the pit, hoping it would lead him to his missing friends. Descending into the darkness, Sunil felt an oppressive weight on his shoulders, and the walls seemed to close in, intensifying his unease. The hidden passage twisted unpredictably, distorting his sense of direction, and the air became thick with an unsettling stillness. Sunil's sense of direction wavered, leading him to the pit's center, where the pit's center revealed a nightmarish scene, a multitude of human and animal skeletons scattered in disarray. The air grew heavy with an unsettling stillness, and Sunil's fear reached a peak. His breath caught in his throat as fear tightened its grip. The haunting spectacle paralyzed him momentarily, and in his hurry to escape, he sprinted blindly. The realization that he was lost in this macabre labyrinth heightened his panic when he reached what seemed like an exit. Unfortunately, his desperate flight led him to a treacherous swamp concealed beneath the floor of the haunted building. The swamp beneath the haunted building was a nightmarish tableau of decay and despair. Murky waters, stagnant and thick with an otherworldly darkness, seemed to hold the essence of all the fears that festered within the haunted house. An acrid odor permeated the air, a mix of dampness and something more ominous. The surface of the swamp was marred by a twisted tangle of roots, partially submerged in the mire. The dim light filtering through the haunted structure above cast eerie reflections on the murky surface, creating deceptive shadows that seemed to writhe and dance with unseen entities. Sunil lost his footing, clung as he descended into its chilling embrace of the swamp. In his final moments, Sunil's fear was a tangible force, an overwhelming sensation that swallowed him whole beneath the haunted building, leaving a chilling void where his desperate cries once echoed. Meanwhile, Ramesh encountered a room where the temperature plummeted. Whispers surrounded him as icy fingers traced invisible patterns on his skin. The walls seemed to close in, and spectral faces appeared, contorted in eternal agony. Ramesh, driven to madness, succumbed to an otherworldly force that twisted his reality until he was guided by an eerie glow, stumbled upon an ancient talisman hidden in the depths of the building. He summoned the strength to confront his fear. With a surge of courage, he screamed by clutching the talisman and recited an incantation, dispelling the apparitions and breaking free from their grasp. The haunted building fell silent, and Ramesh, shaken but alive, emerged from the shadows with a newfound strength, having conquered the supernatural forces that sought to consume him. Miraculously, the spectral forces relented, allowing him to escape the haunted building. Gasping for breath outside, Ramesh struggled to comprehend the horrifying fate of his friends. He recounted the bone-chilling tale to the townsfolk, warning them to steer clear of the accursed building. The survivors' haunted eyes and trembling voices left an indelible mark on the town, forever shrouded in the unsettling mystery of the witch's dwelling.